The passing of the hat from Shanks to Luffy is one of those scenes in One Piece that somehow gets better and better over time. But why is that? You might point out Luffy stabbing himself in the face, Makino being the god-tier waifu that she is, or even the badassery that is Ben Beckman. And, while you're not wrong, this isn't why this scene is so important. No, the true value of Romance Dawn is in the framework it sets for the whole story. See, the major issue in the Great Age of Pirates is how to live a free life. You have some pirates that are good people, but many more pirates that use their freedom to harm others. So you come to the question, is there any real difference between a pirate like Luffy and a pirate like Blackbeard? I mean, besides the fact that Luffy is 10 billion% cooler and has a much better looking crew. Oddly enough, the answer to this question is answered right away with Romance Dawn. In Romance Dawn, the choices exercised by Shanks demonstrate that the measure of a pirate isn't what they can do, but how far they're willing to go for what they value. Before I continue, make sure to share your thoughts on the nature of freedom in One Piece. I'll be uploading One Piece discussions every week, so make sure to subscribe so you can follow along with future discussions. With that out of the way, let's discuss how Oda presents the issue of freedom in Romance Dawn. So One Piece opens with Gold Roger, the man who apparently achieved it all: wealth, fame, and power. Roger tells us that the One Piece, the ultimate treasure, is waiting to be found, but he doesn't tell us what it is. This ambiguity creates an important question. What is a pirate? If Roger had said what the One Piece was, then the answer would be pretty obvious. Since we don't know what everyone is chasing after, then the answer to this question is relative to each person's perceptions. In other words, people come to their own definition of pirates in the absence of an absolute answer. For example, Luffy sees pirates as brave adventurers, and the mayor sees them generally as degenerates. But even though there are many different interpretations, one element seems to be true among all of them: freedom. In the first scene with Shanks' crew, one of the members says that, best of all, pirates have freedom. Freedom is consistent with almost any definition of a pirate. Pirates are free because they can sail wherever they want. They're also free because they can choose to follow their own rules and are thus free to do whatever they want. So, if freedom is the ultimate goal for pirates, then the question becomes, is freedom in itself a virtue? Actually, the question should really be, should freedom in itself be a virtue? See, since pirates are free to make their own rules, that means there's no absolute answer that makes one person any less of a pirate than another. Whether you agree with his choices or not, Blackbeard is just as much a pirate as Luffy. Plus, a guy who managed to flex on the whole world? Gotta respect that. Now, even though there's many ways to exercise freedom, Oda gives us his answer by contrasting Shanks and the Mountain Bandits. Now, besides the fact that pirates sail the ocean, there's not much of a difference between pirates and bandits. That's why it's important to note that this contrast is not between pirates and mountain bandits so much as it is between Shanks and the mountain bandit Higuma. The contrast we see between Shanks and Higuma is when they choose to fight. Higuma chooses to attack when he learns that the pirates drank all the booze. Meanwhile, Shanks just takes the attack and never fights back. After the bandits leave, and Luffy asks Shanks why he didn't defend himself, Shanks answers that needless killing doesn't make you a man. Needless is the focus point of this contrast. While Higuma attacks out of sheer impulse, Shanks makes a conscious decision not to fight because he views it as unnecessary in this particular moment. This necessity requirement is shown again when Shanks comes to fight the bandits and save Luffy. The obvious contrast is that Shanks only fights when he sees that it's necessary, while Higuma just does it impulsively. But what does this tell us about freedom? Well, Oda uses this contrast to show that just because you can act doesn't necessarily mean you should. Higuma attacks Shanks because he knows that he can. He even tells Shanks about his bounty and the 56 people he's killed, basically letting Shanks know that he can, and he will kill whoever he wants. So Higuma offers us the idea that you should act simply because you can. In contrast, Shanks offers what seems to be Oda's answer to the issue of freedom. Even though Shanks can attack Higuma, he only attacks when Luffy is in danger. Then, before Ben Beckman proceeds with his epic badassery, Shanks tells Higuma that he can pour drinks on him however much he wants, but nobody hurts his friends. Here, we see Shanks deliberately protect his friends instead of his own pride. So, since Shanks obviously disagrees with Higuma's theory of freedom, what theory does he offer? Well, Shanks offers the idea that you should only act in furtherance of certain interests and values. Right away, you're probably thinking, how are you free if you can't act whenever you want? And that's a perfectly valid criticism to Shanks' theory. However, this is the same line of thinking as Higuma. In essence, the two theories are competing definitions of freedom. Higuma believes freedom to be the ability to do whatever you want, while Shanks believes freedom to be the ability to choose your own rules. And this is the core of the argument. When LAKEY kills one of the bandits, and they claim that wasn't fair, Shanks responds by saying that pirates don't play by the rules. This line from Shanks reflects his perception of freedom as the ability to live by your own rules. Higuma has no rules and acts simply out of self-interest. Shanks, on the other hand, sets his own rules and only acts according to those rules. How did Shanks choose the rules? I'll give a better answer at the end of the video. For now, it's enough to know that these rules are based on his values. Shanks doesn't value pride, which is why he doesn't fight back when Higuma attacks him in the bar. Shanks does value his friends, which is why he finally fights Higuma when Luffy is in danger. So under Shanks' theory of freedom, you should act according to your own rules, and those rules stem from what you value. Now, the beauty of this chapter is that, rather than outright tell you one theory is right or wrong, Oda simply presents the consequences of each theory. If you follow Higuma's theory and act simply because you can, then you'll act in furtherance of yourself rather than any values. And as a result, you'll harm anyone you want for any impulsive reason. If everyone practiced this theory, the world would be in pure anarchy. Now, if you follow Shanks' theory and act according to your rules, you'll only act in furtherance of your own values. While this doesn't completely solve the anarchy issue, at least Shanks' theory sets limitations on freedom. By offering the consequences of each theory, Oda's goal is clearly to persuade readers to follow Shanks rather than Higuma. Higuma's a greasy jerk that starts fights whenever he wants, and runs away from a fight if he thinks he's gonna lose. Shanks is a respectable leader who fights to protect his values, and does so even when he might die. And this distinction between running away and staying to fight opens another question. If pirates have freedom, and freedom should be understood as the ability to act according to your own rules and values, then how exactly does one exercise this freedom? Obviously, you have to actually decide what your values are. If you have no values, then all you're doing is acting out of impulse and self-interest. For example, Shanks values his friends. Knowing this, now we ask, how does Shanks exercise his value for his friends? Obviously, Shanks spends time with his friends and goes on adventures with them. But what else does he do to exercise this value? He also defends his friends when they're threatened. Now, this element of defense is a bit more sophisticated when you think about it. I mean, to what limits does Shanks actually have to go to defend his friends? Surely they'd understand if he runs from a fight if he thinks he's gonna die, right? Well, not really. See, the values are guidelines for freedom, so to back down when your values are threatened means you're giving up on your freedom. When one of the bandits points their gun at Shanks, Shanks says, "You're putting your life on the line by pointing that at me." This is when LAKEY kills the bandit without warning. Here, rather than back down, Shanks and his crew act to save Luffy even if it means they'll be killed. And we see even more of this commitment when Shanks saves Luffy from the sea monster. Shanks willingly sacrifices his own safety for the sake of Luffy's. And here, in this act of sacrifice, Shanks shows us what it means to exercise our freedom according to our values. Shanks values his friends, so his deliberate value for his friends creates a covenant to further that interest no matter what may stand in the way. So, to return to our main question, what does this tell us about freedom? First, we should only act according to our values. Second, as seen by Shanks' sacrifice, we create a covenant to further that value no matter what. But now we must ask, where do we get these values? While Romance Dawn doesn't show us the answer for Shanks, we do see him make a covenant with Luffy. Luffy vows to become the Pirate King, but he also promises to return the Straw Hat to Shanks once he's become the Pirate King. The dual nature of this promise demonstrates the dual nature of the covenants. Luffy's vow to become Pirate King is obviously a personal interest, but his promise to return the hat is in the interest of Shanks. And this second interest is the core of Oda's argument. Luffy promises to return the hat, so that means he has to do whatever it takes to return the hat. This means getting stronger, building a crew, and adventuring across the Grand Line. That's already at least 3 values: strength, friendship, and adventure. Luffy pursues these values because of his promise to Shanks, meaning that our values should come from covenants we make with others. And we know this because, like Luffy, all of the Straw Hats made promises with people they cared about. So to recap, Shanks shows us that freedom should be understood as the ability to follow our own rules, that we are only free if we stick to these rules no matter what. These rules come from our deliberate values, and those values come from covenants we create with, and for the sake of, others. This is the theory of freedom that we're presented with in Romance Dawn. But, as we see throughout the rest of One Piece, it's also the fundamental structure for the entire narrative. And that's the end of this discussion. If you enjoyed the discussion, then make sure to like this video and support the channel. If you'd like more One Piece discussions like this one every week, then subscribe to the channel so you can follow along with future videos. Thank you for watching, and I hope to hear from you soon.